To be honest, tune in. Is the pod going up? To be honest, sit down, we need to have a talk. Cornelius gon' make a point that the others don't. The mother souls sound the same, come escape the box. Expand your mind, dig into no controversial topics. He ain't scared to keep it real. Tune into this podcast, but don't be in your feelings. We gon' have a laugh, we gon' talk about some pain. Let's talk about the present situation of today. To be honest, is this the podcast? I need to tune in right now.
Yo, what's up, everybody? It's your boy, Cornelius Lindsay, and we're back with another episode of To Be Honest. I don't know if you had an opportunity to check out last week's episode, but I sat down with my boy, Shareef, and we've been talking about sonship in ministry. We've been talking about some of our joys, discomforts, all this kind of stuff. Y'all know I come from a background of church culture. I come from I don't even know what segment of church culture I kind of come from. I don't know if you want to call it like Pentecostal Baptistism. I don't really know. I mean, grew up in a Baptist church, but then it's like Pentecostal roots and this and that. And it's just all kind of stuff. But nevertheless, we sit down and we have a very, very engaging, transparent conversation about sonship, about, the longing for fatherhood, the longing for, all this kind of stuff, mentors and all that kind of, it's just crazy in the church world. But nevertheless, we sit down, and we have this awesome discussion. If you have not checked out part 1, make sure you go check that out right now. Okay. But I want to go ahead and I want to bring y'all into part 2. We're just into part 2 right now. Bring y'all into part 2 of this amazing series. Check it out right now. Y'all already know this is your boy, Cornelius Lindsay, introduces. Let's go to the second part.
So here's the deal. It's one of those things, man, that you have to, when you think about the humanity, right? The humanity blows your mind.
Right.
Because I remember one time Bishop was preaching, and we was at 2778 Snapfinger Road at the time, and I never forget the spirit was so heavy in the church, and he just started crying on the pulpit, like he couldn't control it, and everybody was just watching him cry. And I'm like, what do I do in this moment, right? I know I'm one of the sons, but would one of the ministers pull me back, or the elders, security pull me back or whatever, say, not right now, let him have his moment with the Lord.
Right.
Bro, I just got from behind the sunset, and I just ran up on the pulpit and hugged him. And he cried in my arms.
Yeah.
And in that moment, I said, yo, this person is human.
He's human.
He's human. And I finally get to understand. But I'm gonna talk about this though. When the Bible talks about Noah,
yeah,
you know what I'm saying, how the son exposed the father.
Yeah,
and it's so important to cover the men and women of God.
Yeah,
despite of.
Yeah,
but there's a but at the end of that. When you cover the father in ministry, who helps cover your mental? You see what I'm saying to you?
Yeah.
Who helps cover your mental?
Yeah.
Because you can cover anybody in ministry, but then you dealing with years of pain, years of confusion, years of God. Wait, what happened? Right?
Yeah.
I was promised, you know what I'm saying, to be this person. When I look at my life, although my life span, I shared a lot of my life with music industry and ministry. It was still to the point of, how is it that I felt like I wasted 12 years of my life because I waited on a father to affirm and appoint me.
Wow.
And it never happened.
Wow.
You know what I'm saying? So I lived in regret and anger.
Yeah.
Because you said this, and watch this. I'm going to tell you something. Bishop died in 2017. I cried.
Right.
It destroyed, despite of our disagreements.
Right.
It destroyed me.
Right.
You know what I mean? I went to his funeral. Many don't know, but the day of his funeral, I carried his body into the sanctuary because they needed help. And I remember looking at him, and I had so much pain. And I said, I never got the opportunity to resolve my issues. You see what I'm saying to you? So I stayed at his body for about an hour and a half, and I cried at the foot of his, because at the wake they had his casket like kind of like, you know, slanted or whatever, like his legs was low, body was high. It was, I don't know how they did it. And I just was there, man, and I hugged my friend Chris, and I just cried for an hour and a half on the shoulders, man, because it was like all my pain was still there.
Yeah.
And I felt, watch this though, I felt that it was unfair that he was able to leave without us resolving our issues. You see what I'm saying to you?
I do.
And so when you talk about forgiveness is in a whole other level. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
You know, then you angry with the people that was, you know, close to him as well. Like, it's just a lot of things, man. And I'm like, man, like my whole life, of 12 years of my life, I believed.
Yeah.
Because guess what? Bishop also was a man of his word.
Yeah.
He was a man of, I'm going to tell you what, you know, again, I don't care what the media said. He was a man's man.
Mm-hmm.
You see what I'm saying to you? He knew how to affirm men, speak life into a man, and literally help a man become, in essence, a king.
Right.
Like, that's how much authority he had. You know what I'm saying? Like, just with his anointing and his gift.
Right.
I often say that behind the anointing, there was the human Eddie.
Mm-hmm.
And that was the part that, in essence, ultimately, where people can, you know, come to a judgment
Mm-hmm.
of his life and tear down his legacy.
Mm-hmm.
And this is why I never even pastored as much as I was given the opportunity, meaning people asked me.
Mm-hmm.
I understood that I was still broken.
Mm-hmm.
And I've seen several ministries destroyed. And when you talk about being a son, you see a lot of sons preaching out of anger.
Right.
Right? And then they wind up having miscarriages. Mm-hmm. And the ministry wind up not succeeding because of the pain and the history that was passed down, that was never dealt with. You know what I mean?
I think, even going back to what you were mentioning, and this is something I've had to reconcile with myself.
Mm.
I think a lot of times sons want a father, or men want that father figure.
Right.
Because we're trying to feel what didn't get filled when we were children. And one of the things that I had to come to realize, and I didn't come to realize this until I was much older, was that no other man could give me what I felt like I lacked as a child.
That's right.
Because from that first 12 years of living, from 1 to 12 years old, after 12 years old, what has been given to me is what I'm going to take into adulthood.
That's it.
And then you get saved, and you get into church culture, and you start looking up at this man that's on the stage.
Right.
And you start assuming, man, this guy right here, because if we can be honest, there's parts of our community where we've never really seen a man lead.
Come on, bro.
You've never seen.
I've never seen
when you've never seen a man lead. When you've never seen a man command attention. When you've never seen a man appoint. When you've never seen a man anoint. When you've never seen a man do it. And when you see a man doing it,
bro,
you like your eyes get big, and you like, yo, I want to be like him.
Yeah, man.
You start wearing the suits, and you start
looking like him.
If you want to start looking, you want to become what you
want to become your hero, man.
Because you have no idea that what I see is something that I feel like I lack in me.
Right.
And I wish I could have that.
Right.
And so I really empathize with you. It's the same way with me.
Yeah.
I mean, I saw Dr. Dollar, and the crazy thing is, like, the same way you and Bishop fell out. The same way I worked for Dr. Dollar for almost 4 years.
Right.
And I resigned. I resigned, and I had so much anger and so much animosity, and I was so pissed off.
Oh man,
I was so pissed off, and I never forget. I walked in and I put the resignation letter on his desk, and he didn't even look up at me. He just looked at it, and then he flung it to the side. He said, "All right, I'll talk to you later." And I never forget that. And I thought, whatever. And then the next day came. Next day or 2 days later, whatever it is, and I'll never forget, the HR director walked in, and she never cared too much for me, and she never cared too much for me, and I mean, the feeling was mutual. Right. But she walked into the office, and I remember she was like, "Hi, I get no joy in saying this to you," but she said it with such a smile. She was like, "This is your last day," and I remember just like my heart sunk, because I thought,
"Yeah,
this is it."
Yeah,
like I thought
Yes.
I thought this was so much more than this. And then it was like, and you can show up and you can serve tonight. It was a singles conference. You can come, you can serve tonight. I remember going home. I was newly married. I walked inside of the house.
Wow.
And Heather was like, "What's going on?" And I said, "They just let me go. I'm gone.
Right.
I'm gone. You know, not 2 weeks notice, nothing. Just you're gone."
Right.
And then I went and I just laid across the bed and I went to sleep.
Man.
And because I didn't even realize, I slept for probably 6 or 7 hours. I was exhausted, just mentally and emotionally drained.
Yeah.
And after that, I remember I didn't want to go to church anymore. We ended up, he had a church in New York City and my wife and I were in New York. So we decided to go to church because if we had friends who were still going, so they were like, "Come to church with us." We were going to church. And so I drunk. I never told anybody this. I'm going to tell this now. We to be honest. So we already in
To be honest, got to be honest. Yeah.
Yo, I drunk probably 75%. I drunk 75% of a wine bottle.
Wow.
Before I went to church.
Wow.
Just so I can deal with my anxiety.
I got to tell you about something here.
So I walk inside a church and people just looking at me and I'm like, "Yo, what up?" You know?
Right.
You know, and people look at me like, "Oh, Cornelius, you know, can you help me do this?" Because they didn't know.
They didn't know, right?
They had no idea.
Right.
And then my wife and I, we ended up moving. And after that, it's like, man, it was like we had people who were told at the church they couldn't be our friends anymore.
Yeah.
And they were believing it, and they were like, "Well, we can't support you anymore. We can't be around you anymore." And my wife and I, we were hurt because we like, "Oh no, with us, like these are people we loved you, like we bought you groceries, like you know who we are, you know how we are." But thankfully, I think it was 2016 or 2017, whatever it was. He and I reconciled. He wrote me a letter.
So that's beautiful.
And we reconciled, and you know, I've since I talk to him now, and so our relationship is different because I don't work for him, and you know, I'm a man now.
Right.
He can recognize that I'm a grown man. I got kids.
Exactly.
Like, I'm not that same. I'm not that same 20-year-old.
Right.
I started working when I was 20 years old. I'm not the same 20-year-old who used to work for you.
Man.
Like I have a worldview now. I have something different. So we have different conversations. But that in itself, just that whole fatherlessness and how it plays a part.
Yeah.
And this whole idea of sonship.
See, okay, let me say this real fast. I'm going to cut you off. I'm sorry.
No, go ahead.
But the other part, the part of sonship is it's a level of control. It's a level of control, and then there's a level of manipulation to keep you stay, to keep you around, right? See, here was my issue. I never forget, like, I used to travel with Bishop a lot.
Right.
And I remember him saying to me at the time, Pastor Kearney was his successor. And he said to me, we were in Florida. And he said to me, that you're going to walk as close to me as Jesse Kearney, right? I'm going to launch you out one day, right? Yeah. But I felt like his David. Because he would tell me, number one, I was his rebellious son, right?
Oh my God.
He would say that you was my rebellious son because I went against the grain. I wasn't needy, right? I wasn't needy. So I felt like, you know, I was independent, but I was the one who would tell Bishop, like, for instance, let's say if he wear a lime green suit to go preach in, I'd be like, "Yo, Pop, you like a leprechaun." You know, why everybody else saying, "Pop, that look good." I'm like, "Pop, that don't, you know, that ain't it," right? But here's the deal. Now watch this. You gonna be the guy. Right. You remind me of me. You act like me. You walk like me. People think you my biological son. The whole nine, right?
Right.
But every time I turn around, I'm looking at another son elevated. Another son elevated.
Negro.
Another son elevated.
Let me tell you how close this is similar. So I think one of the reasons why I stayed around as long as I did, or was as close as I got, because I wasn't a yes man. Right. And I think he respected that about me. There's actually a sermon that he did. It used to play on TBN all the time. People would back then, people would be like, "Oh my goodness, here come this thing again." Right. And he was talking about people bondage. And he said, you know, because we were in the back before service started, and he put on the suit. He looked at me, he said, "What'd you think about this suit?" Right. And I said, "You look like Barney." It's like a purpose. "You like Barney." He looked at me, he said, "Well, I like it." Right. I said, "Well, if you like it, you love it. Like you do it, you." But you asked me for my opinion. I hate it. I think you should throw it away. Right. But he stood up there in the Sunday sermon. He was like, he said, "I like this suit. My assistant right here, he gonna tell me he don't like this suit, but I like it. You don't be bound to people." And they put the camera on me, and I looked right at the camera and I said, so this goes out. nationwide, international footage. But then even with that, I would hear those words.
Yes, man.
You're my son. And then here's the crazy thing about it. People would say, you sound like him.
Yeah.
You preach like him. Shut up. You sound like Eddie.
I call you.
Don't do that. Don't do that, little E.
Watch this.
Watch this. But see, they would say, you sound like him. Even when I was preaching, they say, you preach like him.
Yeah.
And all these similarities and all these things that we would see. I was never needy. I would always tell him in the G12 and the mentoring group he had, I'd be like, hey, he would say, why do you look like that? And I would say, I don't want to be here.
Right.
These ain't my brothers. And he would get so pissed at me because I would make clear, ain't none of these my brothers. These might be your sons, but they ain't my brothers. But I never needed them. But that whole thing, man, when I saw that, when that started happening more and more and more and more, I would always wonder, why is it though that I'm the one who seems to be the closest to you? Mm-hmm. I'm the one who you anointed,
right?
You know, when nobody else was around,
right?
I'm the one who got this, but then I turn around and I see you help this one, this one, this one, this one, this one, this one, and I look around and I say, but what about me?
I gotta tell you.
And then I feel rejected.
All over again. All over again. So, you know, it's like those wounds begin to surface, and now you angry, and he trying to figure out why you angry, bro. Look how you doing me. Like, wait a minute, this don't line up with your word.
And I just wanted that to line up. I wanted
That's it.
And it was almost as if I wish you didn't tell me.
I wish you didn't tell me.
I wish you never looked at me and said I had potential. Bro. I wish you never looked at me and said I was anointed. I wish you never looked at me and said, your future is bright.
Right.
I wish you would have never affirmed me if you were going to leave me. Even if you were going to leave me because you thought, well, maybe you could do it on your own. I wish you would have told me, I'm going to affirm you, then I'm going to leave you.
I got to tell you something. So I never forget this, right? I was battling because I'm like, man, I'm leaving this church. I'm tired. Like, you know, because, you know, I worked at New Birth, right? And I never forget when we moved from 2778 Snapfinger to the Woodruff Road. He had me doing maintenance, right? I'm doing maintenance, and he was like, your assignment is to go work with Uncle Joe. And Uncle Joe was Sister Long's personal security, and he's just a close friend, just one of the best dudes ever, right? I love being with Uncle Joe. He had me and James Polk picking up rocks in a parking lot. Like, that was my assignment, to pick up the rocks in the parking lot. And I remember saying, why do you give me the most difficult task? Why is that you don't have me in the office? You said I'm anointed. Privately, you anoint me. You prayed on me for hours, man. You greased me down, right? But yet, I'm David. You got me out here, bro. Like, what's up? Like, you know, and it was one of them things, man, that I said to him one day, I went to his office and I said, you know what, Pop, I'm done. I can't take this no more, right? He just looked at me and I was like, I'm done. I'm leaving. And I left. He didn't say nothing. I left. He said, Shareef, bye. All right, watch this, right? I left. I started going to the Buckhead Church to Andy Stanley. And I said, I ain't never going to another black church ever again in my life. I was like, I'm being honest with you, right?
Yeah, I've been.
I said, I'm going to Andy Stanley Church, and I'm just going to be, it's right there by my house. I live in Buckhead.
Go white
right.
Yep.
And I was cool, man. And I never forget, man, he started calling me like a few months later, I guess, you know, he finally put, because, you know, they got egos. And, you know, when you don't chase them, you know, it's something, you know, right? So he called me. He was like, you need to come back home. And I was like, well, home where? Right? And
we're home. I ain't got no home.
He was like, it's time for me to ordain you. Now, watch, this is like 2008 or 9 or something like that, whatever. I was like, Pop, you've been saying, I done went to Bible college. I left there, okay, because you just play with me. I went to your colleges, you know what I'm saying? I learned all the stuff. You gave me all these books to read, and you still licensed all these other guys, and, you know, and I ain't tripping because I never hated on nobody. That was me. I never hated. I never complained. I just kept it to myself. Now, all of a sudden, I'm gone. It's the perfect. So he literally had an ordination service in 2010 just to get me. I wish he was alive to speak on this. And he was like, who else need to be licensed? Because I need a license, Shareef. And gave me my license. you know, at
At
that
least
time.
you got license.
And it was a blessing. I ain't gonna lie. It was a blessing because it was like one of them things, okay, cool. I see where this going. Like, you know, but then it's once again, it's almost like, what am I doing here? Because I still feel ineffective. Because the spiritual father would always say, you have this anointing, your calling, but then why they always say you ain't ready yet? Why? Why do you spiritual fathers always ordain sons or like them to be close to them, but then quick to say you ain't ready?
I want to say this. When I look back at my path, somebody actually asked me this question. They said, would you have rather been given everything? And do you think if you were given it, you provided everything, do you think you would have become the man you are today? And I don't think I would have.
Me either.
I've studied David's journey because I felt like that, man.
Yeah.
I'm like, here I am, anointed. And when I was anointed, nobody was around. It was just me and him. Right. Nobody else was around, and that's how I felt. I feel like it's me and this Samuel because ain't nobody else out. And the crazy thing was, I had all my brothers, all these brothers. And now when I look at you know my landscape today, I don't see my brothers,
right?
But nevertheless,
right.
I know what it felt like in that.
You just sound like Creflo, and nevertheless,
whatever. Hey yo, I remember being in that cave. Right. I remember feeling what it felt like in the time when I left. Right. Feeling like, you know, Saul's like I have Saul right here to take him out. Right. But I won't. Right. I remember when I left, and I remember one thing the Holy Spirit said to me. He said, never say anything that is going to damage me. I remember that. I remember that plainly. And everything, even I've never said anything bad about him, you know, publicly or anything like that. And I never plan on doing that. I honor him. I honor him for being in my life. But nevertheless, I remember going through all of that, man. And I remember thinking to myself, like, sheesh, like, why couldn't I get some? I remember crying with my wife one day. Yeah. Because I was just like, why don't nobody love me?
Come on, man.
Why don't nobody love me? Like I
you
wish,
sound like me, bro.
I wish I could get love. Right. Like why dude? Because I have these preachers, and now I traveled and I've met every big name preacher that I probably want to meet. I don't want to meet no more of them. No. I've sat in their offices. I've sat in their homes. I've talked to them. And
on their planes.
On their planes. You're anointed. You're blessed. Yeah. You have a future. You have this. You know that. I mean, from Africa to America to I've met them all, and every time I meet them, I want to father you. Yeah, you need a father. Right. You need a strong voice. You need this. And it's like
I gotta share something.
And then you go through all of that, and it's like, shoot, it's all gone. It's like, well, okay, well, you can father me. I'll never forget. There was this one guy who was like, you know. The husband and wife couple, they're like, well, yeah, we're gonna adopt you to you and your wife as spiritual children of ours and walk with you and all this kind of stuff. So I was like, okay, bet. So I'm reaching out to the husband, reach out to the husband. I text, no response. I call, no call back. I leave voicemails, and I'm just like, you know what? I just wanted to just make sure he understood dialogue was open. I'm not calling him every day. I'm not needy. I just want to know, hey, I see you. Let me tell you what's going on in my life. Let me reason with you. Man, finally, after playing this phone tag over and over again, my wife was like, have you called him? And I'm like, for what? Right. I don't want to keep getting hurt and keep getting rejected again. But then once I kept doing that, the excuse was like, well, he doesn't know how to be a father. And I thought, well, the Negro got sons. Right. You know, but even then, I know you could be a dad and not be a father. I get that. Absolutely. But nevertheless, I went through all of that, man, and I just felt that sting of rejection.
That's what hits us, man.
And over.
That's what hit us hard.
It hits so hard, right?
Hard, man.
And then when you go through all of that, and just to be told you're not ready yet, right? Negro, well, I want help.
It don't help. It don't help, man.
I want help. And then what pissed me off, and I'm gonna be this is honest. What pissed me off is I went on some retreats, and I sat around a table with a bunch of white guys. And one after the next one would say how they were so thankful to have their father in life and how their father helped them do this and how they started their church with $725,000.
Right.
My wife and I, we started our church with an American Express card in faith.
Come on, bro.
I didn't get paid. I didn't get paid at my church. I didn't get paid for 5.5 years.
Come on, bro.
5.5 years. I didn't take a dime from the church. And now I'm because I kept putting money back into it. I had a millennial church. They wasn't giving nothing.
Right.
I didn't even pass the bucket for offering.
Right.
But I'm just like, yo, I'm seeing these white pastors get up over and over again talking about how much they were helped and how much they did this and how great it was and how this happened, how the fathers. I remember sitting there at that table trying my best to just stop, to not cry. I remember it came to my turn and I was like, I don't have nothing to say. I got up and I walked out. I was pissed. Because I'm like, yo, I feel angry that I have to scratch, claw, and all this other kind of crap. When these guys over here, they say these guys it made. And then when I look at the pedigree of the people who I've been around, you would assume you should have the easiest.
The problem with a lot of minorities, I'm gonna say this because I've been around it, they don't want to leave their throne. They don't want to pass the torch.
My God.
To the next generation. So you're almost as if it becomes competitive in a sense, like we're competition. No, I'm submitted. We're not competition. I'm just anointed to take it to another level.
Right.
So can you honor the fact that I'm Joshua? You know what I mean?
Right.
Or I'm going to do what Elijah did. Like I'm going to do more.
Right.
Then that's what I'm supposed to do.
Right.
But why can't you honor that? I feel like that in our culture, we need to really, as the sons honor the father,
right,
the fathers in turn should honor the sons.
Right.
And I believe that's how the legacy is passed on healthy.
Right.
Right. Because you have too many of us hurting and then we find ourselves not trusting people.
Right.
And then we find ourselves like in our own little, building our own little kingdoms in essence. Right. Because you don't know who to talk to. And actually, man, this was therapeutic for me because I've held on to some of these things for the last 20 years, seem like 15 years, however long it's been, right? It's been a very long time. And I'm just grateful for us being able to have this moment to dialogue because maybe we should think about doing something for sons, man, because a retreat for sons, because I'm telling you, man, it's a lot of guys. And you got I just got, not to go into too much detail, but one of the guys who was under the ministry with me committed suicide. His funeral was last week. You know what I mean? I just found out, and it's because they said that he just was still hurting from a lot,
A lot of them are still.
And could not heal from it. And all I'm saying is, if you're gonna take on the son, know what that entails. Especially when we're young, and we're coming up.
Yeah, well, I think well, we have to continue the conversation.
Right,
we definitely have to continue the conversation because it's one that continues to be had. Like we talk about. I mean, nowadays you have 30-year-old men who are fathering sons, and I'm just like.
You ain't
no. That ain't it. Like what is your capacity? What is your current worldview? Right. They talking about these are my sons, Negro.
No.
And then nowadays they'd be like, well, I have people who ask me, will you be my son? Right. Negro, you ain't my daddy. And I tell people, I got a daddy. I have a dad. You ain't my daddy. But nevertheless, we're gonna come back to this place.
Let's do this, man.
And we're gonna have. More discussion so that we can really begin to share some of these things. I think it would even be cool if we know of some other guys who've kind of been in a situation who can come and talk about some of this stuff. But glad to have you. And so to everybody who is out there, and this is not just one conversation we're planning on having. We're going to continue this. We're going to continue having these things. I think it's an honest dialogue that we need to have. I think that it's things that men out there need to hear. Mm-hmm. I think some ladies would be able to listen to it as well who have been daughtered in the ministry, and then you were daughtered, and then you
daughtered out.
Yeah, you were daughtered out. You were daughtered out. And so we need to hear these things. I think hearing them, it could at least start a process of healing. And I think that's the important part.
And I just want to say this last little piece, because how is it that, and this is what we need to talk about next time, how is it that you can be blackballed in the church?
Oh shoot, that's good.
You know what I mean?
It's
It's like,
we're gonna go to.
because when you talked about people don't want to talk to you no more, when you disassociate yourself, how is that you can blackball me when we all go to Jesus, who means we all need a savior?
That's where we're all supposed to go. But nevertheless, y'all, thank y'all so much for joining us. Thank y'all so much for being with us. We're gonna come back here. Remember, every episode comes out every single Wednesday, man. God bless you. We love you. Introduces. I'm out.